And welcome everybody to our third in our webinar series. This week's topic is Web Self-Service Tips and Tricks. My name is Rebecca Kraus, and I'll be hosting today's session. So thank you all for joining me today. Let me sort of set the stage on what we're going to cover today. Web self-service, it's everywhere. You know, we do use it every day whether we realize it, and as an organization, it's going to benefit us if we have implemented it for our customers and for our websites across our properties. The three areas that I'm going to focus on include first of all, encouraging web self-service. You know, obviously we can see sort of who's using it from our customer base and from those of you who have joined us today. And it's not, you know, out there everywhere as much as it should be. A lot of it, you know, might be stale content that has been out there for, you know, for a while. Next is widgets. You got them. Let's use them. So we'll talk about sort of tips and tricks around that. And then finally, last but certainly not least, is my friend, the Solution Finder. I think that in the past he's gotten a little bit of a bad rap, but I want to revisit him with everybody, talk about sort of you know, what improvements have been made in it and how we can utilize it for those complex situations that we're dealing with. So hopefully it's a good topic and you take something away from the conversation today. But again, we're going to focus a little bit on sort of the fundamentals of web self-service as opposed to some of the features that we did last week, just because of the fact that I don't think all of us are using it the way that we should be. So with that bit of a preamble there, let me jump right into, you know, web self-service, it's everywhere. Why do I say this? Where am I taking this broad stand on that? A few of the points that I want to highlight for us that I think are very important as we talk about this topic is I've got a variety of status on this. One of them says 73%, one of them says 75%. One survey even went so high as saying 90% of our customers are, you know, trying to search the website, are trying to answer their question themselves before they escalate that to another channel, and whether that is email or chat or phone, but they're going to the site and they're trying to self-service. And that's an important point for us to be aware of as we look at this content and as we look at how can we help them manage this going forward with our different properties. I think the flip side of that, which, you know, I designated as a major fail, is that 90% said that it's been a bad experience when they try to do that service on a mobile device. So, you know, we know from our own properties which of our pages are responsive and which ones, you know, we know look good and which ones don't. Some of us might be managing multiple different web pages or websites and trying to deploy them to the different devices. It's not an efficient model for us, nor is it, you know, effective for our customers. And so we want to talk about how can we improve that, and again, that goes back to that first tip that I talked about. I think the last stat that I want to touch on around this topic before we get into the details is that of all these studies that I looked at in preparing for this week is that the theme across them was they believe by 2020, so a couple short years away, that 85% of the relationship that a customer has with an enterprise is going to be handled without ever interacting with a human. So that means they're going to go to that site and they're going to do that self-service, and they're going to be doing that themselves 85% of the time without ever engaging with us. So this communication channel has increased over 10% over the past 3 years. And, you know, my last stat on this is that it has surpassed voice as the most used channel, costing organizations, you know, pennies on the dollar to publish that content out there versus the cost of an interaction with one of our agents. So again, an important point we want to highlight. I don't want to belabor it too much, but it certainly lays the foundation about why this is such an important channel to us and why we do need to think about how we want to deliver that to our customers. So moving along, I think it's important for us to review because I don't know how many of us really have deployed the knowledge in the web self-service to help our customers do this. As I said, you know, web self-service everywhere where your customers want to be. We want to make sure we're there with that. And the knowledge is really that single source of truth, so that no matter who within your organization is looking for an answer, whether it is your own people, whether it is customers, we want to make sure that we provide that to them. And that might be through this web self-service that we're talking about today and our responsive portal. It can also be, and I'll totally own this as we go through this, I'm extending that also to include contextual knowledge. You know, contextual knowledge is using that same portal, using that same knowledge that's out there, but we're proactively serving it up. So we're anticipating what the customer might need with that. I'm sure at some point we'll do that as a subject matter all on its own, but I think it's an important piece to point out that, you know, the web self-service doesn't just have to be when I go to the portal and do that search. That same knowledge could be served up to me. So that portal, our responsive portal and designed for the business team, the robust authoring, article management, workflow, security model, all of those are benefits of taking advantage of this and an improvement over previous versions that Moxie has published. So it's everywhere. I say it's everywhere. I'm going to provide a few examples. Again, for those that joined me last week, it's a similar theme from last week. We want to keep our customers on your websites. We want to keep them on those digital properties that they've come to. But if they have a struggle, if they have an issue, we want to make sure that they can also stay on the device of their choice. So whether they are on a mobile phone, a smartphone, a tablet, a desktop, we want to make sure that the content can be displayed and properly for them to see. There's not pinching and pulling in order to do that. We're not opening other browsers for them to get to it, but making it very easy for them to be able to engage and answer their questions. You always have the ability to offer them an escalation path if that doesn't work, but again, to maintain that theme, it's the right channel at the right time, and we know based on the surveys that they want to try to self-service first, and we want to make sure we can provide that to them. So what is my first tip? As I talked about, encouraging web self-service. So again, not so much functional pieces that I want to talk about setting up, but the thought process and the methodology. Knowledge management is such a bigger piece than, you know, maybe the channels that we talked about last week. And so it's important for us to think about how do we encourage this usage? We know they want to do that, so we need to make it easy for them to do so. If a customer can't find the article, they can't find how to answer their own question, then it might as well not even exist. I tell my customers that it doesn't matter how beautiful the article is, it doesn't matter how, you know, how many videos and pictures and robustness that content contains. If they can't find it, then that effort has been for naught. Users, all of us, myself included, I will say, you know, we all naturally gravitate to that path of least resistance. And if it's too hard, we're going to automatically pick up the phone because it's probably tagged at the top of the page and you made it easy for me to find. We want to make sure I can web self-service myself the same way. So with that, I think there's three key things that we need to consider when we're wanting to encourage web self-service. First and foremost, I've touched on it briefly already, is optimizing for the mobile. It needs to be the responsive portal so that it properly sizes. You're not maintaining different interfaces or different content and then something gets missed when you make a change. So we want to make sure it's optimized for mobile. Two is ensuring that the content is indexed by external search engines. So that's important, you know, that when I go out and I do a search that I'm finding that as one of the returns and that it's bringing me to your self-help pages, to the web self-service pages. And then last, but again, certainly not least, I'm sure at some point it's going to be a series all by itself, is that the web self-service presented in a contextual format. So again, that same knowledge, that same tips, the same information that I have in my knowledge base for web self-service could be used in a proactive method to present that up. And, you know, in full disclosure, that's technically using another product to deliver it of Moxie's, but the back-end work of all of the writing and the creation and the thought process of how to answer that question is still part of the Web Self-Service, and that's why I thought it was valid that we talked about it during this session as well. So moving forward, if I have not hit home already in our first 10 minutes, how important it is for mobile. Here's another example of both the responsive portal home pages as well as, the proactive knowledge from the Web Self-Service. I think it bears taking a pause on this page to just revisit, what do I mean when we say Web Self-Service, what does that entail? And so that is using the Moxie responsive portal. It was a new portal design that was released with 9.4. It provides a more modern design and user experience. It allows you to add widgets to your home page, but most importantly, it was optimized for phones and tablets. So it will automatically resize for the device and present the content in the most appropriate manner. You're not maintaining separate interfaces. It makes it easy for you to brand it. It provides all the CSS, the headers, the footers, all of that's controlled by you. And it provides you an out-of-the-box verbiage for this to get you started. The other reason why I think this is important to highlight yet again is that one of the stats, again, back on the home page when we talked about it, is that back in May of 2015, last year, Google searches on mobile devices surpassed desktops. So it's an important stat because I think we can all agree that's only going to continue to grow and increase, that we're going to do more and more on these devices. They're always with us. I've got a thought. I'm going to go find my best friend Google and see who he says can answer my question. And what you want is that when that search happens, that you're one of those links and answers that come up. Let's see. So moving forward then, that's really, again, encouraging mobile, allowing it to be easy for the customers to be able to do that. The second tip for encouraging Web Self-Service is making sure that it's optimized for external search engines. So I talked about it. I'm on my phone or I'm on my desktop. I do that search for Google. You want to make sure that your articles, your content is what's coming up. 65% of visitors are going to start a search using Google or Bing. I'm certainly in that category. I never changed my settings, so when I click on the browser tab and it opens up, Google's right there, and that's where I start doing my search. If I can't find that, if I do that search and nothing comes back, or I have to go to your property and I do a search and nothing comes back, you are then encouraging me and saying you'd rather I call you than answer my own question. And again, that's not my first choice, but that's how you're driving me. And so again, that's a behavior we want to change and make sure that we're encouraging them to Web Self-Service. The other points about this, and these are a bit on the technical side about why indexing from the external search engine is important with the responsive portal. So again, Google, when they Google in general is making pushes for HTTPS for to be a factor in their algorithm, in their returns. So an important note, all of our responsive portals are delivered over HTTPS. Additionally, back to my friend Google, his algorithm change favors sites that are responsive designs. So that's another reason why we want to be using this particular portal style for setting this up. Same thing with invalid HTML and CSS. It's problems for the search engines to be able to index those sites. So all of our portals are delivered and shipped with the valid HTML and CSS that you would need. And I think the last piece about this to highlight is that, frames are also difficult for search engines to index, and so the responsive portal with Moxie is not using that, and that should, again, enhance the ability for those third-party search engines to index you. So one more example on this, or two more examples. Obviously, I included Moxie as well, so I did a search for us on our responsive portals, and we were one of the articles that came up. And again, it drives me to one of our support portals that we've got. Again, another option to be able to help customers and assist to be able to easily find the answers to their questions. And then last but not least, one of my other customers did a search with them, and that goes ahead and brings up their portal as well. So 3 examples of, customers that are optimizing themselves so that they are, indexed by external search engines. The third step, and again, you know, a little bit of a blurry line here, but I think it's an important indication to make, is that the web self-service content presented in that contextual KB or that proactive knowledge component. You've got the great FAQ pages. We talk a lot about keeping the customer on the journey and keeping them where they are within that process. And so why not use that knowledge you've created and that robustness of content to be able to anticipate when the customer will need it and present it to them in a proactive method. Hopefully your account executives have reached out to you about showing this to you. If they haven't, you know, we will certainly make sure that you can get a more detailed session on this topic. But again, I think that is a third way to encourage the web self-service. Those proactive alerts of knowledge can contain videos, as I have here, the images, the text. It could also contain hyperlinks that might return me back to the web self-service portal for, you know, additional information, or it might return me to a form to fill out the return or the RMA that I might be going to the site to do. So again, it's just another example of using that same content, that same single source of truth, and delivering it in another manner, in this case proactively, contextually, to be able to help answer the customer's questions. So that takes me through tip 1. Again, the 3 areas were optimizing for mobile, external indexing by search engines, and the contextual proactive knowledge. My second tip is widgets, you got them, then let's make sure we're using them. Widgets are a great way for you as the administrators, the organization, the company, to be able to help users easily navigate, easily find the content they're looking for. Again, as we talked about in the beginning, path of least resistance. So if the frequently used things are right there on that home page, that's going to be something I gravitate to, and I'm going to go ahead and be able to find my answer more quickly. I think one of my colleagues termed it as crowdsourcing for content, which I thought was also a great example. It's a way for us to show what's trending, what's the community looking at, and that might be something that is equally important to me. The usability of the web self-service portal is what's critical to its success. I can't hit that home enough. I think that's a common theme that hopefully between that and the mobile piece of it and responsiveness of it that you take away from today's conversation. So what does this look like? I want to take a few minutes because, again, some of you may not be using the responsive portal today, and so you might not be familiar with what that could look like. This is a sample homepage that I've got that we use sometimes when we're showing customers about that. And you'll notice on the right-hand side, I've got the different widgets available that I happen to have displayed in this particular model. It allows you to expose that high-value, frequently used content that you want, either based on the customer selecting it being important to them or based on, again, my crowdsourcing example of content, or maybe notifications, maybe important information that you want displayed. If I'm a financial services company, there might be changes coming in 2017. So I might have a category or one of my widgets that says, this is everything that's going to be new starting in 2017. And I might display that out there for the first quarter for them. So when they come into their customer portal or they come to the customer website, they always see that information. It is, you know, again, an easy way to create a very rich visual experience for the customers using the widgets on the home page. So let me, again, ask the group, everybody deep breaths for those who haven't seen the admin. So don't let this scare you off. This is much easier than it might look. So this is a little bit different administration. I want to make sure that you know, I talk through a little bit more than just the widget on this page so that you can see really how easy this is for you to be able to include it in your environment. So this is a separate administration from your knowledge base administrator. So for those who are already using it, you still have that administration piece, but then for the portal specifically, you have an additional portal admin. The first thing is that you can add new portals just clicking the Add button, or in this case, I was editing an existing portal by taking the Edit option. Once I do that, it brings me into the Setup pages, and the section I'm interested in is the Configuration page. And from there, it does bring up the code for me to go ahead and make that change, But one of the things we'll point out as I go through this is that we have examples throughout all of that, and we set the framework, again, sort of out of the box what you can do, and then where you can go ahead and add and make changes in order to enable, in this case, the widgets. So once I go ahead and advance to the next screen, I've scrolled down to the favorites widget in this example, and then I grabbed a little cheat sheet here for you to talk about the fact that really what you need to do is go ahead and change it from false to true to enable it. You can identify how many days out you want those articles to be displayed. So I just want to show the last 90 days worth of favorites, or the last 30 days worth of favorites. And how many articles do we want to display in that particular widget? As a best practice, well, technically you can have between 1 and 50. I think as a best practice, you're going to want to keep it around that 5 mark. If you go any greater than that, you're going to start to have a very, robust list. And you have to think about the sort of eyesight line of the user when they're coming in to look at that particular content. If it starts to become too long, then the value of having that widget could get lost. So again, from a best practices standpoint, I would probably recommend 5. But that's really all you need to do is make those couple bit of changes, and it's going to go ahead and enable that for the home page for the users. And again, I'm picking on favorites, but certainly it can be, the trending articles or trending topics that people are looking at. It could be specific content that you want to have displayed to the user for certain periods of time. So that wraps up tip 2, my widgets. And that brings me to my third one, Solution Finder. As I said in my opening, I love this guy. I think that he got a little bit of bad rap in some of the older versions, but with Web SelfService, he makes it so much easier to be able to find questions or find answers to my questions. And so I really encourage all my customers to give it a second look. I enjoy it very much, so this is one of my favorite parts of the product. I'm getting my dork on a little bit, so you'll have to bear with me. But I think that the Solution Finder is a great way for those complex conversations that might have multiple different choices to go through to help a customer navigate that. I think that it isn't effective to do this versus having to have an agent Q&A. Is it product A? Is it product B? Is it product C? Is it this or is it that? So it is a way for you to be able to navigate the customer and then be able to let them see the article. It is, from again, full disclosure, it's well suited for flows that the overall decision tree is relatively static, but the steps to get to there are dynamic. And so that lets you walk the customer through that in order to answer their questions. One of the reasons why I think this is great for the new responsive portal and the Web SelfService portal is that it has a new visual display. So again, for those that have used it in the past, it is somewhat new and shiny in that regard. It allows you to view the history and go back and forth, and it gives you the article right there. So I think that those are great reasons why it's worth a second look as you deploy your responsive portal or as you look to add it for the first time. So the 2 areas I want to look at around this are how do I use it and how to enable it. So the first step is, again, for those who aren't familiar with it, to sort of revisit what it looks like. It is one of the links on the top of my portal, as well as it can be returned within the search results. So again, if I'm a repeat visitor, maybe I don't want to go through the whole path again. I want to do a quick search, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I knew I came in the Solution Finder, so I could go ahead and look at it that way. Either way, it's an easy way for the user to be able to navigate. From the Solution Finder homepage, you'll see you can have visual representations of the different areas that they're that they have questions on. As well as you could have descriptions for those links as well to describe what this particular process is going to hopefully help me resolve. As I said, from a usability standpoint, it provides a breadcrumb trail as I continue to go through the question and answer process. So you can give me a complete description of what I'm trying to resolve, as well as sort of different options on questions that answers I could give. I can go back. These are all hyperlinks, so if I made an answer but I'm not really sure that that's what I want, I could go ahead and grab the link and go backwards. And ultimately then it's going to give me an article to help me answer that particular question. So again, really designed with that end user in mind of how do we visually take them through that Q&A and get them an answer to their question. So for those who haven't used it before, you will go into your traditional KB administration to create the new solution finder, be able to create a new one, add different choices for those. You can give descriptions for each of the choices I might be selecting, and ultimately be able to let me select an article to assign to that particular solution finder. Once my solution finder is created, then I'm going to go back to my portal administration. I'm going to, again, once I select my portal, go to the configuration link. And within that configuration link, I would go to the portal, excuse me, to the solution finder section and go ahead and make those adjustments to, again, turn from false to true for that solution finder and which ones I want to add to that section. And that's pretty much, that's pretty much the sort of overview steps to be able to enable that. So pretty easy step, but again, a lot of high value for my users as they go ahead and add that. So with that, I think that takes me to the end of my third step. Yep, end of the third step. So hopefully after our bit of time together today, you will also agree with me, Web SelfService, it's everywhere. And, you know, at least hopefully one or two of the tips were beneficial for you, whether it's talking about why we want to encourage Web SelfService and the ways we can do that, enabling the widgets, you got them, let's use them, and then finally, my friend, Solution Finder, let's give him a second look and look at how we can enhance that for the responsive portal. So thank you guys very much for your time and attention today. You know, as I said, this recording was, or this presentation was recorded, so it'll be available in a few days on our website. You should get an email alert about that. I'll pause for a sec to see if there's any questions from the group. Otherwise, that brings us to the end of the session. Okay, well, if you do, I always say my best questions come 5 minutes after I hang up the phone. So certainly if there are other questions that come up, please reach out to your RSM. They would be happy to set up some time with me or with your respective solutions engineer to go into any of these areas and topics in more detail. Thank you again for everybody's time and attention today, and have a great Friday and a great weekend. Next week's topic is going to be chat tips and tricks, so please tune in next Friday as well. Thanks.